Hello and welcome to Real Watchers Movie Club. My name is Garrett,
And I'm Kevin.
and we are your hosts. Movie Club is a show where we pick a movie every week and discuss it just like a book club. On today's show, we're covering the second film in the fantasy epic trilogy, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. So our thoughts and more are coming up on Movie Club. Released in 2002, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers was directed by Peter Jackson and once again stars Elijah Wood, Ian McKellen, and Viggo Mortensen. While Frodo and Sam edge closer to Mordor with the help of the shifty Gollum, the divided fellowship makes a stand against Sauron's new ally, Saruman, and his hordes of Isengard. It is ranked 12 on IMDb's Top 250 and has a 4.4 out of 5 on Letterboxd and is ranked number 55 on its Top 250. It was nominated for 4 Academy Awards for Best Sound, Best Film Editing, Best Art Direction, and Best Picture. It won 2 for Best Sound Editing and Best Visual Effects. Before we dive into today's show, though, and The Two Towers, we do want to issue a spoiler warning for the film. Much like the first one last week, we don't want to spoil the film for you because it's really good and you should watch it. And if you haven't seen it, if you're one of 12 people on the planet that hasn't seen this movie, we don't want to ruin it for you. So, but make sure you stay tuned to the end of the show to find out what movie we're covering next week. Spoiler, it's part of the same trilogy. Okay, and before we kind of dive more, again, before we dive into today's show, just a quick pre-burner. I am getting over being sick right now, so my voice may sound slightly different. I may have to mute and cough or whatever. So please, I apologize for that. Don't hold it against me. But I wanted to make sure I recorded this for you guys because you guys deserve a video. So I got to get it out there. My health be damned. But let's go ahead and get into this again. So Kevin, you picked obviously the trilogy. And I know last week we talked about the first film, Fellowship of the Ring, and was really surprised that you ended up enjoying it far more than I think you were anticipating to, for sure. And that you liked it more than you remembered it. So what was kind of the idea going into this one? Were you excited for this one to kind of pick it up, or what was the idea?
Well, right after our stream, I think I watched the second one or this one. So I was very I enjoyed the first one, so I wanted to see the second one because I know there's a big battle scene in this one. So I was very excited about that, and that's why I think I like this one a little bit more than the first one because there's a little bit more action in this one.
Sure. Also, the tone is certainly, it gets darker.
It is darker, yes, but I do want to say last week's episode I said that Gandalf I did not like. Well, I didn't say I didn't like his voice lines or his dialogue. In this movie, I like him a lot better, and just because he serves he serves a great role in this in the first movie too, but in this movie he kind of has to relearn why he's there, and I liked him in this movie a lot better than the first one.
There you go. And I knew you were going to, because when he gets the new look, he really steps it up. But yeah, I'm glad that you really enjoyed this one as well. I think that the Battle of Helm's Deep is such an impressive sequence even now. Because for this movie they developed technology that randomly created a lot of orcs visually effects wise in the crowd. This is the first film to use crowd simulation, which is really cool.
And but also that whole entire you can't tell. Like, I knew it because I watch Corridor Crew, and that's what they talk about, like VFX artists and stuff like that. But if I wouldn't have seen that, I would have been blown away because I would be like, yeah, those are just extras pretty much. But knowing that, and I think it's because of how zoomed out it is, it looks so good. But when you get up close and they're battling and everything, it looks so good as well. It doesn't matter what angle they put it at. It's just a great looking battle.
Yeah, and it's really one of the highlights of the film. And then everything involving the Ents is also very visually impressive as well. Again, this movie just really, it goes for a darker tone, which is very refreshing. And I think that you're going to see it get a little bit more darker in the next one because obviously, the closer that Frodo and Sam get to Mordor, the more antsy Sauron's going to get, and so he's going to start doing things, and so it kind of makes sense that the tone's going to go south. But one of the best parts of this movie is Gollum.
Oh yeah, he's so creepy, but you feel for him. That's the thing. I didn't know he was that big of a character, because I know of Gollum and I know of Smeagol as well. First of all, I knew they were the same person, but I didn't know how impactful both people were going to be, if that makes sense. Just because Smeagol is, I feel like a human, and then Gollum is the one that is possessed. And that's what I got out of it, is Gollum just wants the ring for himself, but Smeagol wants to have friends and wants to live kind of like a normal life.
Yes, and like there is that struggle as well, obviously, and you're going to get to see a little bit more of why that is in the next movie. There's a little bit more of a backstory that's kind of revealed, so you'll get to see a little bit more. But the other thing that's incredible, it's just incredible about him, is the visual effects. They still hold up.
Oh, I knew that he was all visual effects, but he still looked fantastic. He looked like he was part of the crew pretty much. So
yeah,
who's I know the voice actor actually does his motion
capture
as well. Yeah,
Andy Serkis.
Yeah, he's fantastic, because he just looks like he's been possessed pretty much by this ring, and the way he moves just makes Gollum look so much more creepier than he ever should be.
Yeah, this is one of the first instances where you had a truly good-looking motion capture character, and performed incredibly well, and voice acted incredibly well. And they had his voice on set, so you're hearing his voice in the same scenes as Frodo and Sam. So it's not added in later. It's not like,
exactly.
And what do you think?
They're interacting with each other the entire time, no matter what. And they just put the VFX basically skin over him. And I think that actually helps the actors and actresses when they have an object to talk to, I feel like, or a person to talk to that is there. So they're not just looking in the abyss and the guy saying, hey, there's something in front of you. You don't get fear from that. You just get a blank stare. And that's what I think actually helped Gollum, the character, as well, is he's there. He's in this journey as well as Frodo and Sam.
Yeah, and of course, he's there. He has his reason for being there. Like, he's not altruistic, right?
No,
he wants the ring. But it is it's just such an interesting, different perspective to have alongside Frodo and Sam. And you start to see a couple of the ways where Gollum might be persuading things and moving things in the direction that he wants. And so a very large part of the movie, but just as large a part as they are, is also the other side of the Fellowship. We have Aragorn, Gimli, Legolas, and then obviously the reincarnated Gandalf the White, who now get in contact with Rohan, who is the one of the major factions in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I think it's wise that we get them here.
And not in the first movie.
Yeah, like the first movie, we get the important things kind of situated, right? We see, we see the hobbits, we see the elves, we see all those kinds of things. And Rohan is then like the focus for this one, right? Obviously, the Battle of Helm's Deep is a big thing for you that doesn't know, and maybe audience members. We have the upcoming, as of time of recording, the upcoming Lord of the Rings animated film, The War of the Rohirrim, is actually the first battle at Helm's Deep. Will be that movie, and they mentioned the name Helm Hammerhand in this movie, and that is the father of the protagonist in War of the Rohirrim. So we're actually going to see some early Rohan history. coming to
Oh,
the
okay.
screen, which I'm very excited for. And hopefully you're more excited to see that movie after we do this trilogy. But I think that introducing them second and then like giving them time to breathe is
Well,
really nice.
and I like when you're saying giving them time to breathe, I felt like each like duo, they're basically split up into three groups of two, because you have Sam, Gollum, and well, I guess Gollum is a part of Sam and Frodo, and then you have it's Aragon and Legolas, right?
Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli,
And
and
Gimli
Gandalf,
and Gandalf, and then you have the other two
Merry and Pippin.
hobbits, Merry and Pippin, that are isolated a little bit more than everybody else. But they all come in together. There's no stories that don't connect in this movie.
Mhm.
They all like, oh, we're all joining together, and you kind of see the whole big picture, but you don't really see it until it actually happens, which is
Yeah.
really nice. It kind of leaves you on some cliffhangers, like Pippin and, but it's Pippin and who? Sorry,
Merry and Pippin.
Merry and Pippin. When they go to the forest, and then they see the white light, and then Gandalf is that white light, but you don't really know that until you go back to Pippin and Merry, and the trees are talking amongst themselves about what's going to happen. And that it just they take so much time in the little time that they give each group of people that make it the best time.
Yeah, and you know, it's wise, it's wisely spaced out, and it never feels
Hmm.
paced poorly.
Mm-mm.
Everyone gets their time to shine. Like
Hmm.
Frodo and Sam, you know, they have Gollum most of the time, but then they go to Osgiliath and they're involved in the battle there between the orcs and Gondor. The first time we get to see Gondor forces, which is in the last part of this movie, and that
Mhm.
battle is fantastic. The incredible shot of Frodo kind of struggling with the ring as the wraith or the oh my gosh, the ring wraith just kind of floats up in front of him with the
Yep.
drake. And it's a fantastic shot. Also,
Mhm.
one of my favorite shots in this entire trilogy is when they're moving through like the marshlands with
Mhm.
Gollum, and they're like, oh, they hear the ring wraith in the distance, and then it gets a shot of the ring wraith kind of looking around like it's on a horse, but then it zooms out and it's on that drake for the first time, and it's like that still blows my mind to this day. I love that shot.
Mhm.
But like everyone has room to breathe. Everyone and nothing is unimportant. Everything will matter going into the next movie. Merry and Pippin, isolated from everyone else, and with Treebeard and the Ents, incredibly important. Also, they have their
Mhm.
incredible last March of the Ents sequence at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
But then, obviously, everything with Frodo and Sam and Gollum is important. Not a single part of it isn't important. And then, obviously, the other parts of the Fellowship, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and Gandalf, they're building ties with Rohan, which when we get to the next movie, you'll kind of see it come more full circle. But Aragorn is supposed to be the king. He is the heir apparent to
Yeah.
Gondor, and
Mhm.
he is already going out there and making connections subconsciously, even though he may not want to be king. He
Mhm.
doesn't want that kind of thing. He's just there to save his friends, but they're making connections, and that will play a factor later. And then obviously you get King Theoden, and Éomer, the leader of the Rohirrim,
Mhm.
and Miranda Otto's character, who I cannot remember the name of her character right now, Éowyn, excuse me, who totally gets brutally friend zoned by
Mhm.
Aragorn over the course of these movies. But it's okay. You know, she gets her due later. But everything in this movie is important.
Yeah.
And it's highlighted by incredible visual effects,
Mhm.
incredible set design. Like Helm's Deep looks incredible.
It does. It looks
Um,
fantastic.
like I really want to get the old retired Lego set of it. It's not super big, but like
Uh-huh.
it is detailed enough. There is rumors, by the way, that we're getting that's for the next movie, so I will save it for then. But you know, like the art direction, the set design, and the makeup, again, obviously the visual effects in this movie are more impressive. I think because you have Gollum the whole time,
Yep.
and you've got the ring raids on the drakes this time.
Mhm.
You've got more orcs. All the Uruk-hai look
Mhm.
impressive. The Uruk-hai are scarier than just the regular orcs, I think. And if they were there, if they were present at the last movie, might have been a little bit different. But
Yeah.
that's for tomorrow. I believe in this movie is also the first time we see the Oliphants when they march past Gollum and Sam and Frodo. I'm trying to remember if it's in this movie. I've got the movie pulled up because the movies kind of all blend together in my head, unfortunately. Because I've seen them so many times. It is this one. But like, again, it's just every moment highlighted by the technical prowess, and everyone involved is doing such a high level here. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and I love, and like how you're saying that Aragorn is supposed to be the king, and he's making these connections without like even trying. Isn't Aragorn a part of, has like a lover that's an elf, correct?
Yes. So he's got what's her name? Oh my gosh, this is gonna drive me nuts.
But speaking of that, is like the elves help him without him asking because of her persuasion.
Arwen, sorry.
So because of Arwen, the elves are persuaded to help Aragorn because of their love for each other. And right?
No, because this is a separate elf group. These are the elves of Mirkwood. I think is Mirkwood.
Oh,
so this is from Galadriel. This is not from what's his name in Rivendell, because they're two separate factions of elves.
Okay, they look similar to me, so maybe I was confused on that.
They look, and obviously they're elves and racist. Kevin, no, I'm just kidding. All you pointy ears sound the same. No, they're more the Mirkwood elves, I believe. I think it's the Mirkwood. I could be wrong. But they're the ones that are from the same area as Galadriel. Actually, the general character that shows up in this movie, they do meet him in the first movie. Maybe
that's what I'm thinking of. That's what I'm thinking of.
It might either be there or the extended edition. I can't remember. But he's there. So I appreciate you trying to make that connection, but unfortunately, it's not exactly true. The ones that are there with Elrond and Arwen, they're more concerned with leaving the Middle Earth.
Okay.
So, which we'll see them a little bit more in the next one. Obviously, you're going to see them in each of the movies because they're important characters. But yeah, like when the elves show up, it's a great scene. The costume design on the elves is just like, it's fantastic the whole way through. Everything is just incredibly.
And then talking about VFX, is the trees look fantastic with Pippin and Merry and him while they're walking and everything. It looks it just looks so good, this movie. And it's what, 2002
2002, but filmed in like 1999 2000.
That's crazy to think about. Crazy to think about.
And it's crazy because there's 4K remasters that have come out for 4K physical media, and they have updated some of the effects. And I would say that not like the Star Wars films kind of change things. It's more so they just kind of update things that don't really look as good as they used to.
Okay.
Some of it works, some of it doesn't. I think when you watch the film in 4K, you do start to see some of the seams, kind of. So I mean, I would rather watch this on Blu-ray than on 4K. I still want to get the 4K version, so I have it. But I think I can actually see. I have the Blu-ray right there. It's that big golden box. But that was the first. Like when I started working at Best Buy, that was the first thing I bought with my employee discount because I had wanted that for years. Probably should have gotten the Harry Potter one and the Star Wars one at the same time, it's truly like I don't want to say it suffers from this, but it is a second film. This one is very important. The character moments, the things that happen between the characters, are much better in this movie. Are not much better. They're more of the highlight here. As good as the battles are, and the battles are fantastic. I prefer the character moments. Everything that happens between Frodo and Sam and Gollum, and all the members of the Fellowship, what they go through on a character and personal level is more fascinating. Is just as fascinating, if not more fascinating, than the battle scenes here. And the battle scenes are fantastic because it's not just what's it called, Helm's Deep. It's also Osgiliath at the end of the movie. There's also the battle against the Ward Riders when they're fleeing to Helm's Deep. And then March of the Ents. That is also a fantastic part of the movie. Every part is so good, and it is like it just again, I don't want to say it suffers, but it has second part syndrome where you're like, all right, let's let's get to the end. But like, this is important because it sets up everything going into the next movie. There are very few components that have not been shown off yet that will, like there's only a couple things that happen in number 3 that are not talked about here, essentially.
Gotcha. So well, I feel like I would understand if you watch this in theaters and the third one isn't out yet and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to go see the third one. Like, when is it releasing? And then you get like anxious about it. Like for us, we just go watch it now. We don't have to wait a year and everything like that. So that suspense that we're getting, we're like, okay, when can I itch that? Oh, it's next week. I get to watch this.
And then there's those of us who are stupid enough to watch all 3 extended editions back to back to back in one day. So that's just a rite of passage for movie fans. So if I would say, Kevin, if you legitimately end up enjoying all these movies, which it sounds like you are so far, you should definitely watch the extended editions, and because there's just a little bit extra.
Okay.
Little bit. It kind of fills out some ideas a little bit more. Okay. Is all of it necessary? Probably not.
No.
But I think you should watch the theatrical version first if you've never truly seen them before.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever have seen this movie. I know about the battles, but I don't think I ever saw this movie.
So the first one's the only one you saw then?
The only one I can remember kind of seeing.
There you go. And you think this battle's big. Just wait for the next one.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. Okay, Kevin, so let's go ahead and wrap this one up. I mean, we're going to have a lot more to talk about next week, and I think also overall impressions for the whole trilogy will probably make next week's video a little bit longer. So, Kevin, going into this one, this is your first time watching The Two Towers, like you just said. So what is your initial review, thoughts? What do you got?
Okay.
Or final thoughts.
My final thoughts is, in my opinion, this is a better movie than the first one, just because of the big battles that happen. I like big battles, and I like the action in it, and I liked the character building as well in this movie, but the battles made it a lot better for me to watch because of what was going on. I'm not saying the first one is absolutely trash, garbaggio, put it in the dumpster. It's just I prefer this one because it's leading up to something. You're getting anxious about the third one because you know what's going to happen possibly, but you know it's going to be big. And that's what I liked about it. And you get to be with Gollum a lot more, who it's just he's such a interesting character that you want to know more about as well. And I don't know, we didn't talk about this on the video, but the world expanding as well in this in these movies are just endless, and I also love that as well. VFX still hold up to this day, fantastic. Character building, fantastic. Characters getting their own little spotlight, perfect. There's no downtime, there's no oh my gosh, when is this gonna happen. It's just an even steady flow until the something happens and it spikes. It's not a big roller coaster going down. It's spike, level out, spike, level out. It's not it's good, and I can't wait until the third one. So I gave it a 95 out of 100 for me. Again, I think it is better than the first one in my opinion because of the battle, but we'll see about this next one.
Alrighty. For me, I did review this with Adrian on the podcast a couple of years ago, but my score has slightly changed. I think the Two Towers definitely ramps up in scope and in its action kind of feel, right? But I do think that its character moments and the kind of growth we have with all these characters and the new characters we get make it a really strong film as well. So for me, I ended up giving it a 99 out of 100. So I gave it the same exact score as the first one. And that gives it a 4.5 stars out of 5 for me on Letterboxd. I will say, between the first movie and this one, I think I actually prefer the first one just a little bit more. But they're both on the same level. It's not like one's better or worse than the other.
Yeah.
It's literally just like, as a D&D DM, like I enjoyed like the world exposition kind of stuff first, and this movie's still fantastic as well. I'm not going to diss on it by any means.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about next week when we get to next week. But that is going to be it for today. So the question now falls to you. What do you think of the Two Towers? We'd love to hear what you have to say down in the comment section down below. But just remember to be respectful of one another, because who knows, maybe one of you out there is Aowen and the other one's Aragorn, and you don't want to get friend zoned, because that kind of sucks. But next week, shocker, we're covering the third film in this trilogy, The Return of the King, which is going to be a really interesting one to talk about for me, just because of how I view the film. That's not really a spoiler. Go back and watch the drive back if you really want to see how I feel. But also just because some really cool Oscar stuff that happened with that movie. But make sure you watch it before next week so you're not spoiled, because we don't want to spoil it for you. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. All those wonderful things. We have this show that goes live every single Friday at 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and our weekly live stream that goes live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we talk about movie news, reviews, and so much more. But that's going to be about it. So, again, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, make sure you keep those eyes on the screen.